Most Americans today in 2021, or in March of 2021, suffer from anxiety. From the perspective of Tibetan medical science, anxiety is born from an excess lung energy. So in Tibetan medical science, there are three humors that compose or constitute the entire human construct, the body and the mind. These are lung, tipa, and beken. Lung, or wind, is a rough translation. Tipa is bile, or the fire element. And beken is the earth and water, or phlegm element. And the lung element is, as I said, wind, and it's the mover of all things, seen and unseen in the body. So that could be from thoughts to physical activities to parasympathetic movement in the organs and in the fluids. And anxiety is essentially an excess lung energy in the heart, and we call sem in Tibetan the heart mind. It's a rough translation, but sem can refer to, people go like this because you can point to either the head or the heart or both, because the mind is sem. There's not so much distinction between the head and the heart. And how does Tibetan medical science address this? It's simply by controlling the lung energy to bring it back, to rein it back in, or to bring it back into proper proportion, and to make sure it's in the places it needs to be. It's everywhere, but not in the same proportions everywhere. One of the main, most important and crucial ways to control the lung energy is through one's thoughts, because the wind humor lung is born from the energy of attachment. So without that emotion or energy, you cannot create more lung energy. From what I've observed, more often than not, anxiety is born from an attachment to a belief. And that belief specifically is that life, an orderly life, is a direct result of controlling this, that, and the third, and that your efforts are necessary in thinking and worrying about certain things are necessary in creating a desired result. And so when I think of this, I think, oh, that's just a belief, and if this belief were to be relinquished, perhaps the anxiety would also be mitigated or eradicated completely. So those are my thoughts on anxiety, and obviously it may be easier said than done for most people. There are definitely ways through medication, through lifestyle, through diet, to manage anxiety. But most important thing is that letting go of that belief, that entrenched belief that if I don't worry about X thing, it can't really happen in the way that I need it to happen or want it to happen. And there are two things there that don't make sense if you really think about it. One, if you can change the outcome or make something better, improve it through worrying, okay, that's fine. Go ahead and worry about it. But that seldom is the case. It's not the worry that really gets results. It's a certain action, right? It's doing something, uh, uh, thinking about something, and then finally acting on that thought. But the worry in and of itself doesn't really do anything. So what's the point? And the second thing is you imagine a certain outcome, but many a time life gives different outcomes that are outside of one's imagination or ken, right? So it doesn't even make sense to worry about things to produce a desired result because you don't know what that result is necessarily. You have an idea of what you think you want, but then a lot of times you get something that you never even imagined, and a lot of times it's better than you even could imagine. In not worrying, that doesn't mean you don't act, but not worrying, and that's also not something, is if you tell somebody not to worry, they're 9 times out of 10 going to worry because they're focusing on not worrying. Rather, if you tell someone to go do something that they enjoy, they forget to worry and they don't put as much energy into worrying or not worrying. So I feel like that is the more practical advice rather than saying don't worry. And the other part of that is the idea that you always have to do to produce is inaccurate. Just as every breath, every inspiration and exhalation has a brief pause in between. Every contraction and expansion of the physical heart has a brief space or moment of stillness in between. Every wave that comes and goes has a brief moment of stillness in between. It's normal, natural, and the way of things that there be some stillness. And in that stillness, there's space. And in that space, there's opportunity for synchronicities, for spontaneity, for what life is all about. Sometimes doing nothing in that sense is very powerful. So instead of the worry, there's a little bit of space. And in that space, things just come. That's great. All right, those are my thoughts on anxiety. I hope that was helpful. Leave me your comments. Let me know what you all think. If you have similar thoughts or different thoughts, I'm curious. All right, take care, everyone. Bye.